Hello everyone, thank you for joining in and welcome to DXP Deconstructed. As you know, in this show we deconstruct tools, solutions, technologies and architectures required to build scalable digital experience platforms. And to continue on our journey of deconstructing these amazing stories, today I'm joined by Saagar Kinja. Sagar is an Salesforce expert and comes with over 10 plus years of experience in the Salesforce ecosystem. He is passionate about Salesforce Einstein AI and in fact he is an inaugural Salesforce Einstein champion apart from being a Salesforce platform champion. He is also an active community leader and currently leads the Salesforce Daily Developer Group. So let's hear it from him. Without further ado, let's get started. Welcome to the show, Sagar.
Hey Prateek, thanks for having me here.
Can you tell us a bit about yourself and your background with Salesforce in general, how you first got involved with it?
So let me take you back few years. I was into my BTech. It was almost done. And we didn't have a lot of things available to us, like kind of a mentorship, especially for me and a couple of my friends, where someone could tell us that, hey, do this and that. General terms that we heard was go for Java, PHP and all, right, .NET and all. So, and I was into like, let's see what's out there, right? Let's see. So me and my friends, we started to explore, we started to go out and eventually from ourselves, we started to talk to people and we went to many institutes. Honestly, like, a number of them, we had a list and then we started going out and then getting into their offices. And one of the thing was that, there were some working professionals who were kind of training people. So we started going there and started to talk like, what are options do we have? And cloud computing was at boom. And I realized that, something cloud computing is something like that I wanted to pursue. But there were two things in Indian market at that time. One was AWS and second one was Salesforce. Now, Salesforce sounded more like a sales thing, right? It didn't sounded like something like, okay, it's like a cloud platform, right? It was more like, okay, you have to go out and sell something. But, I started having that introductory sessions, I started, because when you have some terms, right, you can look into internet and see from your own view. If you don't know what to search or, what to get into, you will never get to that path. So started my, research in these two terms, AWS and Salesforce. And then I started with my priority. Next thing was priority for me that, what do I wanted to do? My number one priority was to get a job. And AWS, I kind of knew that, it would take a little bit more time. And secondly, the second priority was I was a little shy enough to, or I would say afraid of doing coding. So I got to know that there is an admin part of Salesforce. So I was like, let's do admin and, you get to earn, I had a starting salary of 50K. So I was like, oh, that's too much for me, right? At that time. And I was like, okay, let's do it. So I started with Salesforce and eventually another important part that I realized with AWS, you have to give your credit card and all at that time. But with Salesforce, you can sign up like basically with just an email ID. So that was one of the key part that helped not just me, but my friends also to move into Salesforce.
Right.
When they eventually started learning AWS, you have to get your hands dirty. And then they saw, okay, you have to do this. And it's really tough to get an instance, right? If you are not giving your credit card and all. So that's where I had an advantage and I started learning. And I started learning of my own. There was a kind of a PDF which was available on Salesforce platform. It was a recruiting app. So I was so fascinated to create and learn from it that I created that app twice in, like less than 2 months. And that actually helped me out to learn the basics. And then there were not much, but couple of sessions which were there on Salesforce developers, from Dreamforce and all. So those also helped me out to learn Salesforce. And I would say, then when I started to do some hard work, I was fortunate enough to get into to get into and in the ecosystem and get a job. I started my job as a Salesforce L1 LL2 support guy. Had an admin thing to do, and also a little bit of coding, which I was afraid. And during my L1 LL2 support, I learned a lot. How things work, not just from a Salesforce point of view, like a platform point of view, but also business point of view, and that's actually played a very crucial role in my in my future roles and in my future development. And writing a little bit of trigger. So I saw this guy who was coding and doing freelancing work also. So he was a contractor, and I was like, oh, okay. And then I realized, oh, this coding is not that tough enough, right? Means I saw the code and I was like, okay, I can relate to it, because in 12th I did C++ and I was quite good in it. And then I thought of like, let's do it. Means this guy is doing freelancing, he's earning a lot, he's doing a job, right? So kind of I was motivated at that time to see what is there. So I started learning all the different details which were there on the help.salesforce.com. There was a PDF that used to come at that time. Still, I think it is there, or you can download it as a PDF. The releases and all. So I started and learning from those PDF. Going line by line. I don't know, like it just came out of nowhere. I was motivated and I started putting all the effort, and I eventually learned a lot. Okay, so there was new things. Now I have to learn HTML, CSS, because at that time Visual Force you can get those external CSS into as a static resource. Of course, we can do it right now also, but those things were amazing because at that time there was no Aura and LWC. So get those bootstrap right into Visual Force, and then so I had to I have to learn some JavaScript and HTML too, right? So I'm just telling you honestly that I didn't had that much expertise initially when I started my journey, right? And I know that this will be shared, so I want people to know that it's nothing like that. You have to come with all your hands dirty, right?
Correct.
But I can also say that I've been lucky.
No, this is true for so many people, right? Especially coming out of college fresh, right? I mean, one, not realizing where to go. You mentioned about the mentorship, lack of mentorship, right? And then choosing the technologies because you don't even know like how big they are or what are they capable of. Like Salesforce example, right? A lot of people still consider Salesforce as just as a CRM and not as a full platform. So coming from the outside world, right? So these are the real challenges, and then getting to know and a couple of things that you pointed out, right? I think the Salesforce ability to kind of provide that training material, coaching, mentorship through these trailblazers programs and others, right, plays a huge role. And I'm glad, right, I mean, that we are able to get you over here because of all of those things now. And then starting from a non-coding background to a background like this now, where you are an expert in the Salesforce Einstein AI and other Salesforce products as well. So that's an amazing journey, Sagar.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah. And
awesome.
I after that, I was not afraid of coding. Means I was kind of hesitant to go into do some coding, but after that I think that even in my role right now, if somebody wakes me up at 3 a.m. and asks me to write some whatever synchronous, whatever type of the epics they want me to write, or some app from the ground zero they want me to develop, I would be like, okay, let's do it. So that's
nice.
kind of attitude that I've developed over time. And eventually, with that learning, I realized that the thought that I had with the money, right, that was also very limited. So I was like, I was seeing myself grow like anything at that time. So I left my company. I moved to another company. They gave me an offer to be an employee. So it's like you grow, and then only you get such offers, right? And then I was like, okay, I started to get settled, and I was like, okay, yeah, things are getting better. Company is good. They are giving me a good work-life balance. Manager is good, right? Team is great. I'm also learning and working with business stakeholder directly, right? So it was an amazing opportunity. Then slowly, steadily, I realized that, okay, market is growing like a lot, right? I started to connect with people outside of my company and in the community, and I realized, okay, market is growing like anything. So I was reached out by many people, many HRs that you can, if you are willing to change, then I was like, okay, let's try it out, right? So I gave interview, right? It was just one interview that I gave at that time, and it was cleared off. At the time, it was like Aura, which helped me out. Like I was very much good in Aura, and Aura just came in, and every big wave which comes in Salesforce, if somebody is riding that wave or is on the in front of that wave, you will get a job instantly. So I was very good in Aura, and I cleared the interview, got the offer letter, and I was like, okay, now it's done, but I have a very good job. I didn't thought about it, right? Because I was kind of stable. I was very happy, and so I was like, okay, let's do it. So I let's see the new challenge, because challenges are what made me what I was on that day. So I resigned, and then I realized, okay, I'm getting more messages from HRs. So I was like, okay, let's get more offers. So I was like kind of naive at that time. So I gave a dozen of interview. I had like over 10 offer letters at that time. And
nice.
it was an amazing experience. Means I got to see that, where you are in market, because generally when you are working in a company for so long, you eventually don't realize, how upgraded you are.
Correct.
And that helped me out to get I would say a package beyond I imagined at that time, and move to a new company, new role, and moved to HCL at that time, and it was an amazing opportunity. Got to work on a new type of project. It was a very competitive project, and with great team members, and I got a lot of visibility and support at that time from my team, and new Salesforce module that I worked on at that time, and then after some time I've been learning. Okay, it's been some time. I've been learning. I've been doing things, and now things are like, okay, it can be done in like few days, right? Or not a day, or just few hours, right? So you're at that stage, and then you start to feel what's next. And then again I moved. It was a COVID time, so it was a risky time for me. So professionally, I was like, let's see. So again, I applied, I got a job, and at that time also I was selectively applying for a company. I was not like just going out, and putting my resume on Naukri.com and, or like I'm open to work and like that, right? I was selectively applied for 3 companies, and I got offer from all 3 companies, and eventually I just landed in Sienna, and I've been happy after that. Sienna currently is treating me well. And it's a great company to, where we have work-life balance, new competitive opportunity to learn and, work on new exciting technologies. And parallelly, I told you that, in my company, NCR, I was, kind of involved in community stuff, right? Talking to people outside my company. So that's where my community journey started. And in NCR only my, I think in initial days of my NCR, my Einstein journey started at that time. Yeah. So far in Sienna, I live in Delhi, so I have all about like 10 years of experience in Salesforce, all in Salesforce ecosystem. I'm a enthusiast, tech enthusiast. I love to see what is happening around the world, right? Especially in the tech world, and build many apps, not in just Salesforce, but also in Node, Angular, and it's crazy. It's crazy how one can sit on their laptop and build so amazing platforms and just deploy it, share it, and so many people can use it. At least it could help one. That's all right. We want to do.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's quite a journey, right? I mean, to start with somewhere and then now where you are, and especially the point where you mentioned about the community, right? I mean, so slowly and steadily you not only understood the technology but started participating in the community, and hopefully you were able to give it back, as well as you were able to derive more value out of your efforts as well. So that's true for so many of us, because we start with nowhere. We are like a little bit hesitant to reach out and things like that. But then once you start going out, you understand the importance of it and the role it can play in the overall ecosystem or overall growth of yours, right? Like you mentioned, right? So though you certainly mentioned, right, that Yeah, you only were selectively applying for companies, but I guess you were still getting 3, 4 jobs offers
Yeah.
at the single time. So that's really good to know. So especially around the Salesforce Einstein AI, right? I mean, you mentioned about riding the wave, right? And then it's an AI wave in past couple of years. I mean, AI has been around for a while, but then I
Yep.
think since the introductions of these GPTs, things have changed a lot and are continue to evolve as well on daily basis, right? I mean, every day new app, new solution, new technologies coming out, right? So, what was your first impression of the Salesforce Einstein AI? And can you talk a bit about it for our audience as well? Like, what Salesforce Einstein AI is in simple terms, and how does it fit into the broader Salesforce ecosystem as well?
Mhm, mhm. Okay, so let me start with Salesforce ecosystem, right? So Salesforce provide us these out of the box module, which are plug to play, right? Means plug and play. You can any company, any business who's running a sales cycle, of course they are running. So they
Yeah,
can just have Salesforce sales module and plug and play. This comes with out of the box objects,
correct.
workflows, everything all in one place, and that reduces the amount of time to go live, right? And also reduces the time in development also, right? So Salesforce has been leading in this space for like when it started. Honestly, that is something that I can
Right.
say. And what AI really meant in Salesforce is Einstein. Einstein is a umbrella where you can find all the AI solution offered by Salesforce. So when it comes to the search engine, we have the Einstein search. When it comes to some out of the box plug and play AI features, there are some Einstein AI plug and play features like lead scoring, opportunity scoring, all those which are
Okay.
there. You just have to just have it enabled in your work, and it comes with some licenses. So if you have like unlimited licenses and all, then you get some of the licenses of those scoring in sales. So it's pretty straightforward. You just have to assign permission set, and you can get started. Now coming to the other part where you have some custom requirement. Okay, I want to build something, a predictive model maybe for this custom module that I have, not a out of the box module, right? Something out of something that you have, or maybe a custom process that you introduce in your out of the box model, like your sales cycle also.
Okay. Yeah.
So then there comes some admin features which are point and click. Of course, you don't have to do some
Uh-huh.
coding in there, right? You can run models on that and on your data, and then you can get some predictive model, right? And see if it is useful to you or not. So it's a very powerful platform in that sense, that even though I have some data which is already there, and I
Mm-hmm.
don't want to do anything and just have something enabled and see if it works, okay, go for the plug and play features, right? And if you
Correct.
want to do something, right, if you have some data analyst, of course every company has, right, or some business understanding, let's do it. Let's go for some prediction builder or maybe Einstein discovery to build those those models on the custom maybe custom mapping that I have, or some custom fields, or whatever I have created in my system.
Correct.
So that's amazing. And now the generative AI coming in, it's a beast, right, in disguise right now. I have worked on of course it's in beta. Yesterday only it went GA, the Einstein Copilot.
Okay.
It's a beast. I mean, you talk about you have been seeing Einstein generate the GPTs from last 1 year, right? You
Correct.
see them generating content, right? Means they can summarize something. You send a big data, right, whole sheet, and then they will summarize and give it to, or you want to generate an email, right? So it generates
Right.
content, as well as do you want it to do something? Well, of
Uh-huh.
course, it will be amazing, right? It gives me like those NLPs, and I am able to do something. We have seen some add-ons on, especially on the Chat GPT, that through using them you can execute certain tasks. Similarly, why
Okay.
can't I have those in my business? So Einstein Copilot is
Mm.
basically a conversational assistant. It is semi-autonomous. So of course there is a
Okay.
human touch, right?
Uh-huh.
You ask it to do what it has to do, right? Nothing like it will just go out in this in the system and then it will do
Of
it
course.
on its own. right? So, but you can perform actions. You can ask it to
Okay.
do things through NLP. So that's amazing, right? In a way, we have been wanting that feature for so long, and now we have it in our hands. So what we develop with it is something is totally, up to the one who's working on it, but it is a beast, honestly.
So can you give some examples, right? I mean, like, for example, you mentioned NLP, right? So, and we can provide it certain instructions to carry out certain tasks as well in your sales cycle, service cycle, maybe, or any other process as well, right? So can you give us some real world example that you have either built or come across where organization have made a significant impact using the Einstein AI features?
Well, in the NLP, especially in the Copilot, it just came in GA, but I can share
Yeah,
a couple of solutions that I built for my clients.
sure.
Um, well, I built so I can share like one that I built for my hospitality client.
Okay.
It was actually two Einstein solution. One was Einstein bot, and second one was that they wanted to have a predictive model to score their leads and how likely they are going to convert, right? So they had this scoring model, and they wanted to do some predictive analysis around that. So what we did is, I started, okay, you wanted to do that, let's start with understanding the business. So this is the first step. Started with the understanding with the business, what all business process there is, how do you get data, how old your data is, right? Basics questions, right? How old your question, what is the volume of that data?
Correct.
Then moving ahead, we started with EDAs, right? It's like exploratory data analysis. So you see, they are saying that they have 10 billion records. Do they really have it? I mean, how how uh, how right the data is, right? What all features have they identified for the model? So let's suppose that they have identified 15 features. When I say 15 features, it's like 15 things that impact the their scoring model, right? 15 what we can say is parameters in a way, right? In a simple English, right? So
Right.
out of those 15 parameters, what is the most impacting one? Right? What
Okay.
does all 15 matters? Of course, they thought like, but from the data point of view, does that matter? Right? So you do all those things in the EDA. You find outliers, you find all the nulls, right? All the data which is missing. You see, okay,
So
what is
is
the
it a
data
manual
type
process?
issues?
So this EDA is a manual process, or is it done by the Salesforce itself?
Okay, so there are a couple of things. It is the task, right? So how you do the task is totally up to the one who's working on it, right?
Right.
Some who are very good in using the Panda libraries, right? They can just
Uh-huh.
use it to execute these couple of tasks. Many who would, or some I would say, who know that how it can be done in Einstein platform, the CRM analytics platform. Well, they can use the CRM analytics platform. Let me give you an example. So so Einstein Discovery, like let me give you a product, how it works.
Yeah.
So Einstein Discovery is here, right? And the data that you get from on the Einstein Discovery is here, right? So the data, let's talk about this platform. So this is basically your CRM analytics platform. Of course,
Okay.
Salesforce sells it like all, but I'm just keeping it separate. So this CRM analytics platform is a platform where you get data from different systems and create one single data set, right? And in the CRM analytics platform, there is a transform layer or a data platform, you can say, in which you are getting the data, transforming it, and then having a data set out of it, right?
Makes sense.
So in this data platform, right, you have the different transformations available to you. By using them, you can achieve or complete certain EDA task. That's pretty straightforward. Like simply you can identify the outliers, or simply by creating a small graph, right?
Small filters
And
and all.
yeah, it makes it very simple actually. By using that the analytical platform right below that, right below that layer, and you can achieve many such tasks using those that CRM analytic platform. And then comes the other area. Maybe you want to do certain clustering, right? Maybe you want to do a correlation analysis, right? Correlation, I said, like how related this feature is towards identifying or predicting this specific scoring number, right? So you created a scoring number. You wanted to see, okay, how related or correlated, how weightage it has, right? So those are something you can do it in Einstein Discovery itself. So there are many things that you do in Einstein Discovery, some things, and some things you can do in CRM Analytics, but it's a blend, right? If you have certain tasks that you are good in Panda, you just do it in your system. Have the APIs are something that are exposed through CRMA. You can access the data set from there, and then you can do those analysis right on your local environment also, or maybe whatever cloud environment. So that's where we started, this whole building the predictiveness for the scoring model. And eventually we realized that, okay, we don't have that enough data, right? Out of 10 billion, only a simple data set is useful, because most of the data has issues. It has blank data, right? Then they came up with around 31 of dimensions which were important for the scoring model, but then it was reduced to only 20. So we start. It's like a journey, right? Generally, companies, businesses, they set an expectation that you do this, and out of that we'll get
extract
a
something
model
and then
that
build
will,
something. Yeah.
yeah, it will tell us everything, right? But
Correct.
business have to understand that it's a journey. It's an experiment, right? It's an experiment, because if you get a 99% of that accuracy, right, or 0.97 of the probability, right, then your model is having some issues, right? So you always have to, and you always have to ensure that your business is on the right page, that it's a journey, it's an experiment, right? Of course, we will do everything as per the books, and we'll find something useful at the end. But you have to understand that we will be investing this much amount of time and money also. And it's a journey, right? But good thing was that business was on the same page, and eventually throughout our journey, right, we came to a point where we had this scoring model which was having around 7.6 or 0.76 that accuracy, and a lot of other scores were fine, means not too bad, but the good part was that business understood the point that if the model is saying me that this specific lead has lower scoring, what does it mean is that I have to check why it has lower scoring, right? Now, if a human touch is there, they can go ahead and then see, okay, this is the data, and model is saying me this. Is it good? Okay, it is good. Give a thumbs up, right? So we started taking feedbacks also. So that's where the power of the whole platform comes in, and the whole solution, a package, you put it there and it works. Okay, it works, and that's all we need.
Got it.
Generally, it doesn't mean the business. We have to set the business expectations for sure.
Yeah, makes sense. So yeah, that's interesting, right? I mean, starting with these 10 billion data points, only to realize that the data wasn't that big, or at least the usable data wasn't that big, right? And identifying your parameters. So what I'm hearing is, and then just validating my understanding as well. So you obviously collect the data using this Salesforce Analytics platform. You discover, you do your ETL, EDA processes on top of it, right? And then start predicting the things, right? If I'm not wrong, right, I mean, Salesforce Einstein AI not only predict, but it also provides a recommendation on top of it. So once you have this data, you have made certain decisions, or you're seeing certain patterns maybe, it also recommends what can be done for those users, right? So can you talk a bit about that if you have like created that thing or a use case, or worked on an example where you were able to actually act on the recommendation provided by the Salesforce Einstein?
Yeah. So one of the things that, so let's complete this part. We have the Einstein Discovery. It has given us a scoring model. Business is taking input that, if it is a lower scoring, okay, what does it mean? Why it has this lower, this specific record? So they can do that analysis. They get those details. And what they can do is, we created a custom component there to take those feedback to us, right? Not to directly to the system, not to Salesforce, but we are storing it somewhere else. and we were tracking it, that how frequently, basically tracking the adoption of it, and as well as how frequently someone is using it, and also giving us feedback that okay, the accuracy is right, it has some data points which is correct or not, right? So that's one way of taking the feedbacks from the biz. Now when it comes to recommendations, right, so there are I would say, like in the discovery itself, you get certain recommendation, like out of the box only, right? Once you get it enabled, that okay, do this thing, and because of course it knows it is coming down, and then what you have to do is you have to increase the maybe some lead time, right, to the next
Okay.
call, and then have it, the score will increase. So that's where it comes with that those features too, right? And there are again I would say, like there are different, Salesforce has come up with these module tools. So there is something called Einstein recommendation builder,
Okay.
which helps you to recommend different way, example like selling different products, right? So you have the Einstein recommendation builder, then you have Einstein kind of a recommender in the service cloud. So it helps you to give the reply to the whenever a service agent is talking to their customer. So it has like different modules to it when it comes to the recommendation engine.
Okay, that's interesting. So there are multiple components. So Einstein is not just one thing, but based on what you're saying, right? There's a data aspect, there's this prediction, there's this recommendation, and there are these bots as well, right? Which like Copilot and others, right? So it's not just one thing, but then probably this suite of different, I don't know, should we call it as a products or these interfaces where you can interact or use Einstein AI? What do you call these? Like, are these the different components of Einstein AI?
Well, we call it like a product. For an example, Einstein for sales. So that's a product. Now you get features in it, right? Let me give you an example. You
Yeah.
get Einstein summaries, right? Einstein voice call summaries and all. So what you're getting this feature under a package that is a product, like Einstein for sales. So you get Einstein One Studio, right? Under that you are getting Einstein Copilot, you are getting Prompt Builder, you are getting Einstein model, the model maker, right? So it's like I means it's like you have a category called Einstein, and then you have Einstein products, and in Einstein each you will have like different features. So how they are
Right.
clubbing it is like you get a parent product, and then you get all these features.
Got it. Got it. So basically, so this also probably means that, I mean, like Salesforce obviously have these bigger products like Sales Cloud, Service Cloud, Commerce Cloud, and others, right? So Einstein, apart from having these features, they are probably tied up with these clouds as well. So
Yeah.
the intelligence is delivered within the cloud itself, right? I mean, is that how it is? So that while I'm using the Salesforce Sales Cloud as an example, right? So I can get information about my customer, predictive analysis right over there, and then maybe some recommendation right over there, like how I should improve my sales process, providing, let's say, some attractive offers to my customers and things like that. So it's not only a separate thing, but then it's tied up with the context in which we are using the Salesforce. Is that a fair understanding?
Yes, absolutely. Apart from getting all these features out, Salesforce is already very much integrated in the Einstein is very much integrated in the Salesforce platform. You said it exactly. For an example, we have Einstein Search, right? We use it. It's already there in the system, right? It's already integrated, and
Okay.
you use it every time you search it. You use a search bar, right? So it's very well integrated, and we use Einstein features somewhat without knowing that we are using it.
Got it. So coming to that, right? While these are integrated, I just have a broader question around this thing, right? While are these a seamless integrations, or does it also provide a way to customize these things? Like up to what extent the customization exists, and have you ever feel limited by anything that, hey, it's only this possible? I wish there was something more when it comes to customizing these integrations or using some of these features.
Yep. That's a very, very good question. Well, yes, of course. Well, any feature that comes in Salesforce platform, right, that comes with great responsibility, right, but great role, but it comes with certain limitations initially, right, and then they
Correct.
evolve over the time, and that is with every Salesforce feature, right? For example,
Yeah.
Einstein Search, right? Well, Einstein Search is there. It is integrated. Wow, that's awesome, right? I'm using AI whenever I'm searching. Well, first question is, can I customize it? Uh, Well, yes, of course, you can customize certain things. Then coming to the part, okay, my data is being used by, say, somewhere else or not. Well, you have all the details in the documentation. Your data is very much secured, right? So all those questions, customization, my data, which is, you are integrated, you have an integrated AI platform. Are you guys using my data to do something else also, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
that's also something that if you have a question, Salesforce gives you the, all the details around it, every integrated product that you are using it. Well, it comes to, seeing any limitations. Well, Einstein Search, when it initially came in, it was an amazing, it has been amazing feature, right? But one thing that I really wanted to have is customizing based on some certain user preferences, right? Means basically for a set of users. And initially, we had like this limitation where we could not, right, at that level. But now I see that, yeah, they have evolved, and they give features like every release also.
Okay.
Yeah, you must have heard about the idea exchange, right? So whatever ideas you have on the Salesforce platform, not just limited to Einstein, you can post those ideas, and people coming in from different companies, they get to vote for it. So it's an amazing
Yeah.
thought. I always loved it, and it's like listening to everyone, right? Not just
Correct.
okay, my account manager is there, so I talk to my account manager. Are they guys listening to me or also not, right? Tomorrow, if my account manager gets changed, then what's the thing? So I have this idea
Correct.
exchange where all the ideas are posted, and I know all different companies offer it, but it's amazing thing, right, to have.
Okay. Okay. No, that's interesting. But then you also brought up this, like, there is a little bit of, or you touched upon the data confidentiality part, right? Because I
Yeah.
think all of these AI products rely upon the data. And the first step is data, like those billions of rows that you were talking about. So it derives intelligence out of that data. But then how does Einstein ensures that your data is not used at a broader scale outside of your org, or the data confidentiality still remains while you're using these AI products? Does Salesforce provide anything to that effect?
Yes. Salesforce provide very detailed documentation, not just for each and every tool, but for entire platform, right?
Okay.
So they will give you, how your data is being stored, not in Einstein perspective, but I'm saying in Salesforce perspective, right? So they will tell you like how your data is getting stored, where it is stored, right? What all servers, which location, and everything. And once you have that, you are okay. Oh, it's amazing, right? I've got all the transparency, where all my data is being used. Now, second thing is about AI, right? AI, are they guys using my data somewhere else? Well, of course. I mean, I'm not saying, of course, they are
Okay.
using it, but of course, there is a chance, right? So, Salesforce provides a very detailed documentation on which data is being used for a global model. So, in my case, it is my company boundary, right? So, what if it is staying in your own company boundary? And the third thing is, with these GPTs coming, like the LLMs coming in, the generative AI features coming in, right? Are they using my data to train their model?
Train
Because
those.
generative AI is
Correct.
a total different beast, right? When we talk about the traditional, no, I mean, it's now traditional in a way, right? When we talk about those predictive features, which is eventually are called discriminative AI, right? They have a tendency that, okay, this is my model. I have a mathematical equation or technique or a algorithm that I'm using to train my model, but I can say that, yeah, it's staying in my boundary, right?
Correct.
Because maybe like it's a model which is trained on my data, so they might not be using it, right? But when it comes to generative AI, like, totally different beast, right?
I
Coming
think it's a
out of
broader
like,
data. Yeah.
yeah. So is the generative AI using my data whenever I talk to it? So that's
And
another other realm, right, to talk about it. So coming back to the point with the generative AI, so Salesforce provide a very detailed documentation in all the points, right? Maybe I'm missing few points, but documentation in all the point, and you can, right, starting with the global data, you can opt out from that. So if you are
okay.
aware, you can see what features that you are using or planning to use, and you can opt out from the global model, right? And
Okay.
secondly,
Okay.
if you have a generative AI feature, right? For an example, maybe you are using prompt builder, right? So a question comes in. I want to use this prompt in my some mail, right, that I'm creating. This is a custom prompt, right? And will my whenever I send this to John. So John Doe is basically a kind of a someone who is a customer to me. I do not want it to
Right.
share it to generative AI, right? Because it's a customer to my company, right?
Right.
So
Right.
when you talk about to when I share, okay, write a mail to John Doe based on our last meeting, right? These are the actions. So generative AI, is it using it for training or not? So that's where the Einstein trust layer comes in, right? And if
Okay.
yeah, Einstein trust, if I had like, I would show you, it's a very beautiful diagram, right? How you, whenever you create a prompt, it basically takes care of a lot of generative AI issues also. But it all, one of the key thing is that it takes care of this bigger problem, which is my data being used by generative AI for training? So
Okay.
I just, took you like in generative AI, but coming to the point, yes, you get all those detail out in the documentations where
Yeah.
any company can see what's happening. And with generative AI also, you have Einstein trust layer to take care of you. So yeah.
Got it. So yeah, I mean, so it is possible, but then it's in your control what data you want to share with the larger LLMs to train upon, right? And then, but at the same time, you are able to leverage the learnings from others and then use it for your business and your use cases, right? So that's obviously an advantages of having a bigger, powerful LLM trained by the broader set of data as well by the Salesforce. So that's good to know. I'm just kind of coming back to the analytics aspect, right? I mean, how is this Salesforce or Einstein analytics is different than the traditional business intelligence tools? Because like in general, obviously they provide certain intelligence as well. The visualization of your data gives you those ETL capabilities as well and be able to demonstrate that thing, right? I mean, so why would someone go and use this versus the traditional BI tools, right? I mean, in general.
Let's talk about analytics on a Salesforce, like from a Salesforce ecosystem, right? Salesforce provides us out of the box analytics through reports and dashboards. They are
Yeah.
limited, but they are very powerful. Means you have an app, you want to see what's happened, like all the data in one sheet, or maybe create a small chart out of it, like how many opportunities you closed and all, right?
Right.
So you can create a small chart, or you can create an entire dashboard out of it. Then coming to these dashboards, they run on the reports, but these dashboards gives me a 360-degree view, and I can run it for a specific user, or maybe like a, run dynamically to get those insights, right? So we have these powerful features, but they have their own limitations, right? Now,
Huh.
for a customer, right, I'm using Salesforce for my everything. I'm using Salesforce for my customer 360, everything.
Okay.
Now
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
have reports and dashboard. Though they are available on mobile, right? Though they have these amazing, powerful things, I want to go beyond, right? Maybe I have sheets that I want to use to transform. Maybe I want to interact with my dashboard. Simple thing, right? I want to interact
Right.
with my dashboard. Maybe I want to, send those dashboards to someone through a Slack that I'm using, or maybe something else, right? Some specific use cases which are limiting me from using these reports and dashboard. That's where the
Okay.
CRM analytics comes in. So CRM analytics is a platform that was previously called Tableau CRM when they acquired Tableau,
Yes, of
and
course.
before that it was called Einstein Analytics, right? You have the
Yes.
analytical layer, and then you have the Einstein discovery layer. And before that it was called Wave Analytics. Whenever you connect with Salesforce, any other platform, it consumes the API limits, right? Because you're talking to Salesforce, and whenever you're talking to Salesforce multi-tenant architecture, right, the server, you use certain limits. Well, one benefit that you get by using CRM analytics is that it's integrated with your current org. It's
Okay.
tightly connected with your Salesforce org, right? So you have your current Salesforce org, and then you can get data from your Salesforce org without hitting the limits. So if you have a local sync with your local environment, it's already there. You don't have to do anything. So connection, everything is already set up. You don't have to do anything. And then you want to get the data. So you just have to, run those object syncs,
Okay.
and you will get the data into CRM analytics without having those API limits and all. So
Interesting.
one thing, it is tightly integrated with your Salesforce system. Second thing is, it has a very much look and feel for a user, a less learning curve, I would say, of someone who's using Salesforce,
Okay.
who want to use Einstein Analytics, or who wants to use CRM Analytics, right? So somebody,
Right.
anyone who's using Salesforce can easily go and, use CRM Analytics because it has the same UI UX experience and same navigation and all.
Okay.
Now, you got data from Salesforce without hitting any limit. You can upload sheets, right? And then if you have some lower environment of Salesforce, right, it has a very similar connection that is there with the local environment. That is something that you can
Okay.
enable. So I'm just giving you like a step by step how how different it is, and as well as how powerful it is, right? So you get to connect with
Got it.
the local environment with similar way, right? So many orgs you can manage from your CRM analytics, right?
Local.
Get all the
Right.
data, and then you have the transformation layer. So it just does not limit you with anything, but gives you more features. And if you want to do some reporting, right, some
Yeah.
sort of aggregation or some sort of transformation that you want to apply that limits you in the Salesforce environment, you can do it in here, right? And maybe if you have created certain specific let's about rating, right? You created rating based on 4 or 5 different objects, maybe
Correct.
opportunities like past historical opportunities, and you rated it, and then you want to write it back to Salesforce. So that's also a feature which is there, right?
Okay.
um,
Okay.
Now you want to get a dump of all the data that you just created. How would you do that in Salesforce? It would be very troublesome, right? So you have this output connection as CSV. So you hit the API, you get the data in CSV. Yeah. So it's basically, every pain point that is, someone who has in Salesforce is taken care in the CRM analytics. Coming to the next part, which is, the analytical rail, an analytical platform, right? So you got all the data. Now you have created data sets. Now somebody who wants to see these dashboards, well, you can create those dashboards by point and click, right? And again, you can go beyond. You can create queries, which is called SQL. So you can create queries which are which can be run real time on your data. So you have a large data set of which you are creating small subsets of data set using these queries, and then you are showing them to as a runtime for a user, right? And then comes the
Okay.
security part. I am a user, right? Maybe I don't want to see data for someone who's or my colleague, right? So Salesforce provide us this feature in CRM analytics that I can inherit security from my
Okay.
Salesforce. So CRM analytics can inherit security of object from Salesforce. I don't think any other tool that gives it, right?
Yeah. So you don't have to configure it, and it's global. So you set it once, and it kind of flows through
Yeah,
your different products and your analytics tool as well. Okay, makes sense.
exactly. Yeah. And then coming to the dashboard, I have all the interactions. It comes with out of the box, all those different charts and all. I can build, I can just use it to create a dashboard. Maybe something that I want to create custom, I can use LWC. Again,
Right.
someone who has Salesforce, I might be having developers who are aware of, how to write LWC. Of course, I will be.
Correct.
Then they would be, I can just pull them in and ask them to create this chart, right? Or some custom engagement way in the dashboard. Pretty straightforward. I have SQL, which is kind of similar
Yeah.
to SOSL and SOQL, right? Kind of similar, but it's like a statement language. So something that is, again, someone has been working in Salesforce, less learning curve, come and use, build it. So it's
Correct.
overall, right, if you see, there are many things that you will get with CRM analytics that you lack in Salesforce, and those are actually a benefit over other tools that are available, because other tools are mainly not looking from Salesforce itself like a point of view, but okay, have this tool, have this XYZ tool, it will connect to anything, and then it will
Right.
show you dashboard. Oh, you have a large amount of volume, I cannot afford it, right? Then you have to have a database server. So that's
Yeah.
where, you start to see issues with other tool. But again, I don't want to comment on that, but go into other road. But that's where, CRM analytics has a lot of advantages.
Yeah. So ability to customize, being flexible, integrating so well with these different data sources, right? I mean, it's kind of you don't have to worry about a lot of these pain points which seems obvious, like when you talk about it, but they are so difficult to solve when you're using some of these other tools and doesn't have these capabilities, right? So, okay, no, that's interesting, Sagar. Couple of more things in general, right? So let's say, how do you see this Salesforce Einstein AI, especially in the service sector, right? I mean, do you see them affecting the jobs of the service agents, or do you see it as an enabler for those service agents in general? What's your perspective on that?
It's an enabler. If you use it rightly, it will do wonders for you, right? One can do their work very fast, efficiently, effectively, and take care of whatever task they have when it comes to service or whatever area there is. And service area especially, they have this amazing platform, Salesforce, where they can talk, they have all integrated, enabled features. Now, when it comes to generative AI, Einstein Copilot, or you want to use some service Einstein GAI feature, right? It is an add-on to you, right? There is a human touch involved. So it's not taking away anything, right? Human touch is very much important right now. We are going towards, a kind of a different wave, but as of now, a human touch is very important, right? Because they are not very predictable GAIs, right? So human touch is very important. It's how you use it that will be the important point, right? How effectively you use it, it's something that will enable you to make things greater for you.
Yeah, and the organizations who can use it appropriately and effectively, right? I mean, bound to have more success quicker than others. I mean, so yes, like I said, it's an enabler and not a replacement as of now. In
as
general,
of now.
But no, that's a great thought. So lastly, right? I mean, where can users find more information about Salesforce Einstein AI, and then within the community, are there any training materials if somebody wants to get started as an organization or even as a developer or an admin, right? Where can they go and then learn more about this and then probably use it and embed it as part of their day-to-day work?
So Salesforce has this amazing platform called Trailhead. Anyone can go and they have to search the keyword, and they will get all the trail, modules, the trail mixes that they have to follow and learn, right? Secondly, Salesforce is doing AI plus data tour right now, all over the world. So you will be seeing a lot of workshops which are happening virtually as well as in person. So just see for your local Trailblazer community groups. You will find a workshop that will be happening. There are a lot of planned which in India itself. And thirdly, if you need any sort of guidance, right, still if you want to, hey, Sagar, tell me, where can I go do, just reach out to me. I would be more than happy to connect with you if anybody wants to reach, start their Einstein journey, right? Just to start with the basics, or maybe, hey, point me to the right direction. We'll be more than happy to do that.
Yeah, I'm sure a lot of people would come to you after seeing this, but I know you do a lot anyway in these events, right, around the Salesforce Daily Developer Group and then around India and globally in general, talking about Salesforce Einstein AI, right? Is there any new workshop or an event coming up where you are going to talk more about Einstein AI, or you're planning to talk about it?
There is an in-person event that will be happening on May 18th here in Delhi NCR. So if anybody is interested, we will be touching about Einstein for developers and as well as the Einstein Copilot. So we'll be touching two of the very powerful niche skills, right? A big wave. So I hope many join us in that.
That's great, Sagar. I think it was really fun and exciting conversation. There was a lot that I learned. I'm sure there was a lot that our audience will take back and that hopefully start their journey, or if they have already started, they would have got a lot of insights in general how they can use it better. So really thankful for your time and suggestions and insights during this session. Hope you had a good time too.
Yeah, Prateek, absolutely loved it. I was very excited for this session especially, and thank you so much for having me here. Loved it. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Sagar. And then we'll keep on talking, and I'll keep on bothering you to learn more about the Salesforce Einstein AI. So for our audience, thank you for listening in, and we'll be back again soon with the next episode of DXP Deconstructed. Till then, thank you and take care.